Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. My host, JP John Paz. With me today, two very special guests, two former professional wrestlers, two authors as well, Mr. Mike McClaskey, and of course, the Masked Saint himself, Mr. Chris Whaley. Guys, welcome in. How you doing?
Great.
Doing great. Doing great. Thanks for having us, John.
Now, I guess I'll start off with Mike. What is going on? You guys have a book coming out, and just tell me a little bit about the book and what's going on.
Book's been out for a little while, Mr. President. It's a political comedy. Chris and I have been writing for, I don't even want to say how long we've been writing. We've been writing for quite a while. This actually started in 1988 as a movie script. We pitched it to Hulk, and he kind of passed on it. 20 years later, we rewrote it with The Rock in mind, actually got it into The Rock's family, and they kind of passed on it. And Chris said, you know what, let's just put it out as a book, which we did. And we've had some pretty good success for it. We're fishing. We're really hoping that somebody out there catches this thing because it would make a great movie. It's a great comedy. It combines athletics, it combines politics, and it combines comedy. So, you know, it's a win-win-win.
Dr. Chris, what do you think about that?
Oh, it's an awesome book. Who would have ever thought of the world heavyweight champion becoming president of the United States and then putting in his wrestling buddies in his cabinet? I mean, it is one of the funniest books. Every time I read it, I laugh. There are just certain parts on it that's just going to crack you up. There's also a comedian in the book, too. If you're not old enough, John, but there used to be a comedian by the name of Pat Paulson, and he ran for president every 4 years. A comedian who ran for president every 4 years. And he got, probably 1 million votes every time he ran. Yeah. So there's a comedian in the book by the name of Timmy Connors. And Timmy and the champion have this dialogue going between them. Timmy is running for president. He gets the world heavyweight champion to be his vice presidential candidate. And then there's a problem with Timmy. He has a heart attack, and it thrusts the world heavyweight champion into the presidency. And it's just a unique book, and it's funny. And especially in a day of politics with Donald Trump, I guarantee you, people will love this book.
Interesting. You mentioned maybe The Rock because I know he possibly had some political aspirations, so it really could be true to life.
You want to go into that, John? You really want to go into that with us?
Yeah, do that, Mike.
So I was friends with his dad, Rocky Johnson. And I used to give Rocky Johnson scripts and say, hey, get this to Dwayne. Long story. Of course, Dwayne has a production company, $7, which is what he came to Florida from Canada with, $7 in his pockets. And one of the scripts was Mr. President. 6 weeks later, Rocky Johnson calls me up and he says, Dwayne's thinking about running for president. I said, yeah, I know. That's the script. That's the script that I gave you. Oh, no. It has nothing to do with the script. Right. So I give you a script 6 weeks prior that has the professional wrestling champion becoming president, and your son, who's a professional wrestling champion, announces that he wants to become president. Complete coincidence. Right.
Yeah. Also, yeah. John, when we gave the script to Hulk Hogan, I think how many months later was he on a late night talk show, Mike, and said he was thinking of running for president?
This is going back again. This is 88, 89. He came on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno with the boa around his neck, the feathered boa. And he sat down with a big announcement. Jay says, what's the big announcement? Hulk says, I'm going to run for president. I'm sitting in my living room saying, here we go again. I had 6 months earlier, I had just sent him the script about the wrestler becoming the president. Again, this is the way it is, So again, we're really hoping that somebody that has a vision can get their hooks in this thing. I don't know if you saw it, Chris, but John Cena has a movie out on Netflix where he's what?
The
John,
president.
do you know? He's the president of the United States.
Oh, I know.
Again, we're going to sit here and say there's a real good chance that somebody in the organization saw it and said, you know what, this guy would be a great president. And we're going to sit here and say, yeah, we know. 1988, we started writing it.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do?
I sent the book to Triple H last year, as a matter of fact. I sent it to him. So, it wasn't shocking when you see John Cena as the president.
Yeah.
They're just using our stuff.
What did Triple H think of the book?
I never heard. He's not going to tell.
Interesting. A lot of politics and wrestling kind of, intermingling, right, Dr. Chris? Don't you think? Very true.
Yeah, well, you got, Linda McMahon, who is in Donald Trump's cabinet as the Secretary of Education. He just, got Triple H to be on his presidential fitness council. Yep. So, yeah. And Donald Trump is in the WWE Hall of Fame also.
Yep.
What do you think about that, though, with like Triple H? Do you think that, you're involved in the business, you're getting involved in politics? Like, if, officially, I know he's doing stuff for the physical fitness and stuff, but do you like that, though? You're in wrestling and you're getting involved in politics like that?
Oh, it doesn't bother me whatsoever. Politics is so messed up that, I wouldn't be surprised anybody getting into politics. I really would.
Well, Chris, tell them who you just had on your show a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we just had Sheriff Grady Judd.
No, Glenn Jacobs.
Oh yeah, we had Glenn Jacobs, Kane. Yeah, he was on our TV show a few weeks ago, and he's the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. And I asked him. Matter of fact, Mike said, "Why don't you ask him if he has any, aspirations of other offices in politics?" And I asked him that question, and he said that he wanted to run for governor, but he's good friends with Marsha Blackburn, and she's running for governor, and so he wouldn't go against her. Yeah, so a lot of wrestlers in politics.
Oh, yeah, the ties run deep, right? I mean, him especially. Tyrus is all over Fox News. You got Jesse the Body, obviously the former governor. I mean, he runs rampant for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Mike, what do you think about that, though? Just as far as wrestlers and politics, they do say a lot of the politicians are, working, if you will. They'll say something about somebody in front of the camera, and then behind the camera, they're having a beer together. What do you think about that?
Well, and even in our story, the wrestler who becomes the president of the United States goes back to his roots. You got to remember, a professional wrestler can wrestle 350 nights a year. Now, you look at the average laborer, and they don't come anywhere near that. The professional wrestler has a regimented schedule. They have to be here. They have to do this. They have to train. It's very regimented, very stiff, and very structured. So when we wrote this story, we wrote that our president, the wrestler, becomes that way as a president. And it's a lot of the same belief that if you want something, get off your rear end and go out and work for it. And that's what professional wrestling is all about. You want to get to the top. You know how you get to the top? You work for it. And I think a lot of this can roll over into politics. Unfortunately, one of the things that we wrote is that the president, the wrestler's wife, says to him, honey, none of the things that you want to happen are going to happen. And he says, well, why not? And she says, because there are people in place that their whole purpose is to make sure that doesn't happen, which, again, that's what we see all the time. A wrestler has a persona about him. That's one of the things is The Rock. You look at The Rock. What is he? He's in his 50s, right? You wouldn't know it. I mean, the man looks like he's chiseled out of stone. So to put him in front of 50,000 people or 100,000 people or 1 million people, and they look at him right off the bat, they're in awe what he looks like. And that's the wrestling mentality of I want you to be in awe of what I look at first, and then you can listen to what I have to say. Unfortunately, the whole political structure is set up so that it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what I want to do as the leader. I've got people that are just all they're going to do is shoot me down. And we see that today.
Yeah.
Dr. Chris, it's so interesting. Like, you mentioned obviously Trump earlier, but it's interesting the way politics is. He's almost cutting wrestling promos out of out there half the time. And I know obviously he was a huge wrestling fan. We know that.
Yeah, he's never at a loss for words, and to be a top tier professional wrestler, you got to be able to talk. You got to be able to do those promos. When the microphone is stuck in front of your face and a little light goes red, you got to be able to say something. And Trump is never at a loss for words. He's always got something to say, and he reminds me of a professional wrestler because he doesn't take crap from anybody.
John, how far back does your wrestling love go? Give us some names of some people that you adored growing up.
So early to mid 80s. So obviously Hulk Hogan, he was number one, first, true hero. It's like, this guy is just, the man, if you will. Then probably Macho Man, maybe a little bit of Warrior, but then when Warrior beat Hogan, that was kind of the end of it for Warrior for me. I didn't like that. I always liked the Steiner brothers, the Road Warriors, Sting, Ric Flair after a while, of course. But that's kind of my fandoms, 80s, 90s.
Yeah. Mike and I had the opportunity to work against the Macho Man's dad, Angelo Poffo. And Mike got to work with him a lot more than I did. And he was quite an individual. And Mike's got more stories than I can tell about Angelo Poffo.
It was an interesting dynamic. His nickname was the Miser. He wrestled from the 50s to the late 70s, 80s. And of course, the Miser being someone that doesn't want to give away anything. And he was a multimillionaire, and you wouldn't know it. I had laid some old clothes out on my couch to take to Goodwill. And when I came home, I said, "Where are those clothes?" And they said, "Oh, Angelo and Judy came by, and he got them." Okay, well, thanks a lot, Angelo. I'm thinking he's going to take him to the Goodwill. So I see Angelo about a week later. He's wearing my pants. I said, What are you doing? He goes, "Oh, well, they fit me." I go, "Those are for the Goodwill." He goes, "No, there's nothing the matter with them. I'm going to wear them." So that's where he got the name, the Miser. One night I did get a phone call from him, and you got to remember this is the 80s when we had home lines. And he says, "Somebody wants to talk to you." And he handed the phone to Randy. And when you talked to Randy, you were talking to the Macho Man. Everything was over the top. I had been in a movie and done some commercials, and he wanted to know about getting into acting. And I told him a few things. I gave him some advice. And one of the pieces of advice I gave him, well, a couple of the pieces, I said, get an agent. Next time you're out in California, get an agent. And I said, do a commercial. I said, don't go for a movie, because a movie can be 3 months of filming. A commercial is 1 day. I said, you go do your commercial, you work for 1 day, and you'll get a check for the next 20 years. And I think we both know what came of that. Snap into a Slim Jim, you know. But that was, the 80s, and Chris will echo this sentiment. The 80s, especially for us, was such a great time. You mentioned Sting. I'm sitting in my living room one day, and my son comes walking in again with the phone, and he goes, "Dad, Sting's on the phone for you." And I look at my son, and I knew who it was, but I said, "The singer or the wrestler?" And my son just kind of looked at me. I go, no, it's the wrestler. Give me the phone. Sting had called me to talk about some movies. Dory Funk. Do you know Dory Funk? The Funks?
Oh, yeah, very well. Yeah. Interviewed Dory, too. Actually, Terry a bunch as well.
Yeah. Chris introduced me to Dory, and we had a relationship. I've got pictures of Dory and Marty sitting in my living room. it actually got to a point where I had to kind of say to Dory, I've got a life, Dory. You need to, I work and I got kids, and thanks for coming by, but call next time. Give me a call next time, Dory.
Nice. Yes.
You hate to say that to the 7-time world champion, but it's like, dude, I got to get up in the morning and go to work. Call me next time. Thanks.
Right.
But that was a great time. That was a great time for us. Chris, tell them, who'd you have on one of your last shows, Chris? You had Rick Rude and who else?
Yeah, I did. I was actually a pastor, and I did a benefit for a lady in my church. And we had some great guys on there. We had, my goodness, we had Rick Rude, had Dory Funk Jr., had Bugsy McGraw. I don't know if you remember Bugsy McGraw.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Of course,
Bugsy.
yep.
And I think
was like the Warlord or somebody like that.
Yeah, had the Warlord also, and Dick Slater. I think it was on there. Yeah, we had like a bunch of good guys on the show there. So those were great days back in the 80s. They sure were.
Yeah.
Do you ever think that being a pastor and being a wrestler, you can't get more different? You know what I mean? It's like good and evil a little bit there, right? I mean, it's crazy, the differences, right? With wrestling, sometimes how crazy it can get.
Yeah, when my last 3 years in wrestling was when I was going to seminary in Fort Worth, Texas, and had the opportunity to work against some of the, great names there. Worked against the Undertaker, Ultimate Warrior, Bruiser Brody, got to be on there with the Von Erichs and all. And I graduated from seminary in May of 1988, and then I went to my first church. And when I went to my first church, there were some people being mistreated, and I dealt with them more as a professional wrestler than as a pastor. And so it was, it was kind of strange, going from professional wrestling into ministry. But, you have your own battles in the ministry too. You have good versus evil, just like in wrestling. And you just go with what the Lord gives you, and you just work with what he gives you.
What did the boys think of you becoming a pastor?
Well, I don't know. Did you see the Masked Saint?
A few years ago, yes. Probably about 5 years ago.
Yeah. Roddy Piper, of course, is in the movie. He plays the promoter. And I had some good conversations with him during the time the movie was being shot. And it was kind of interesting that, Hulk Hogan said he, after Roddy passed away, it was like a couple of days later, and a message showed up on Hulk Hogan's phone from Roddy Piper. And, I had to think, well, maybe the Masked Saint had a lot more to do with that than I thought was happening with Roddy Piper. But I think that some good things did happen as a result of that.
Whether the guys wanted to admit it or not, they respected Chris for his dedication. Professional wrestling, unfortunately, is a lot of hurting souls, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, socially, and for them to come into a locker room and have someone there like Chris that, again, not physically look up to, but they can see that there is hope. When we can tell you some stories of locker rooms, and it's some pretty bad things going on with these people's lives, which is why most of them are dying off, unfortunately. But again, when you've got a group of men together, and the majority of them are hurting, and then Chris walks into the room, and you can kind of see him pop up a little bit because he's got something that they don't have, and they know that. And again, whether it ever transitioned or not, we don't ever know. But I used to see it, and you know, there was a little bit more respect for Chris. You know, people had to watch what they said around Chris, which Chris didn't demand it, you know, but they just knew, and again, it was a respectful thing, and it's a shame that that more of a ministry couldn't have gotten involved there, but believe me, that's just that locker room's not the place for it.
Yeah, I've tried to be the chaplain for WWE. I'm good friends with Jeff Jarrett, who is now, you know, one of the brass with AEW, and I talked to him about being the chaplain for AEW, and nothing came about on either one of those, and which is sad because you know, Mike and I prepared for the future. You know, I knew that I wasn't going to be a professional wrestler all my life. I knew I was going to be a pastor. And then while I'm a pastor, I'm preparing for retirement, which I'm in right now. Mike, you know, after wrestling, was doing what he's doing right now. He's a businessman, and he's preparing for the future. So many of these guys, you know, they make a lot more money than Mike and I ever made in wrestling. They make, you know, a lot of money, and at the end of their career, they don't have a pot to pee in or a window to throw it out of. You know, they waste it, and it's just sad to see that. And I really wanted to be a help to those guys, which I think I could be a help to them, but unfortunately, it just never worked out. But you know, it's not going to get any better. I can guarantee you that, because you know, wrestlers are dropping every day.
Were they receptive at all, WWE or AEW, or no?
No, you know, I got some texts back and forth with Jeff, but there was no interest. And then I went to one of their shows. I tried to meet with Tony Khan, but he's got more bodyguards around him than the president's got Secret Service, I think. So I wasn't able to talk with him. But anyway, I just keep trying.
Hey, John, I got to tell you a quick story on Chris. So Chris, of course, used to wrestle as the Masked Saint. He would come out with a white mask and a white cape with a red cross on the back of it. And I would come out as the evil Prince Ananka from Saudi Arabia. I was the bad guy. And we would usually travel together, and we would just pull in down the street from the arena. And Chris, in the worst way, wanted to be the bad guy. The worst way he wanted to be the bad guy. And I'm like, dude, you're wearing all white and you've got a red cross in the middle of your back. You can't, it's not going to happen. You know, it's not going to happen. As you know, put some black on and get rid of the cross and, you know, this and that. But Chris just wanted one time to be a bad guy. And I said, not going to happen, man. I'm sorry. You know, but I would have promoters call me, and a promoter will call you and book you. And if they don't really know you, they will say, do you want to work baby or heel, good guy or bad guy? And I would say, my name, you're booking me under the evil Prince Ananka. It's in the title what I am. I'm a bad guy. Right. It's the evil Prince Ananka. Why are you asking me if I want to be a good guy? You know, but it's like, okay, yeah, I'll do whatever you want me to do. It's in the title, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
They should know better. Chris, you wanted to play a heel. I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun being a heel. I actually got to do that when I first went to Texas. You know, I was an unknown in Texas, and I didn't work as a saint. I was just working as somebody else without the mask. And you know, to be a heel, you got to make them hate you. And so I was wrestling in Dallas, and it was the last couple of years that Tom Landry was the coach of the Cowboys. And boy, the people in Texas, man, you know, they live and breathe the Cowboys. And so I got into the ring and grabbed the microphone. I wanted them to hate me, so I grabbed the microphone and I said, with the lady with the 11 snot-nosed kids that dropped them off at Texas Stadium. Please go pick them up. They're beating the Cowboys 14-0. And
Nice.
I had to have police escort to get out of the ring. They were throwing ice and cups and cans
Whoa.
and everything. So,
Yeah.
so it's just a lot more fun being a heel than it is baby.
Yeah, it is.
Now, Mike, where did that character emanate from? Like, what territory did you use it in? And obviously, nice heel heat, right? I mean, that's just easy heat, right? I mean, they hate that character.
Yeah. So my alter ego was Dan Bench, which was mostly a good guy, college boy Dan Bench from Barbells, Georgia, fictional town. And I went to Tampa one night to wrestle at a bar show, and the guys that were heels weren't heels. They didn't understand the meaning of drawing the hatred out of the fans, and beating your opponent to a pulp. And so I wrestled that night as Dan Bench, and they asked me a couple of weeks later to come back. And I said, well, I'll come back, but I'm not going to come back as Dan Bench. I said, I'm going to come back as an evil character, and I want to show your guys how to do this. And I came back as the evil Prince Ananta. I got the robe, and I got the carpet, and I wore scrubs as my tights. And I had sand that I threw and fire that I threw, and I beat the local boy to a bloody pulp. And then I went back into the locker room and I said, that's how you heal. And I had people throwing things at me like Chris was saying, and you have to have somebody escort you out. But it was when I did this theatrically, I wanted it to be the best. I wanted my performance to be the best. I wanted to look the best. I wanted my outfit to be the best. And when I would go into a locker room and see somebody sitting over in the corner smoking a cigarette with tennis shoes on and short pants on, and they're going to wrestle, I'd just shake my head. I said, you're not a professional wrestler. I don't know what you are, and so that's where that came from. And I really enjoyed the role of the heel. I really enjoyed it. Like Chris said, it is so easy and so fun to do. Yeah. I did wrestle for WWE a few times, WWF. I don't know if you remember when Hulk Hogan and Paul Orndorff turned on each other.
Oh, yes.
You do. So that series of matches was filmed in one night in Poughkeepsie, New York. The very first match, they were partners and they got along well. The second match, they started to have some struggles. The third match, Orndorff turned on him, and I think Big John Studd and Bundy came in and beat him. That was all filmed in one night. And I was lucky enough to be there. So they put me with another guy, and we were going to be a heel tag team. And he's nervous. He said, I've never been a heel before. And this is in Poughkeepsie, New York, 10,000 people. I said, well, just follow me. So we walk out, and I stop, and I point up to somebody in the rafters, and I said, yeah, you drunken idiot. Why don't you go home and beat your wife? People started throwing beer cans at us and cigarettes and papers at us. I turned to the other guy, and I said, now we're heels. That was it. That's all it took. And we went into the ring and worked as heels, but that's all it takes.
Do you remember who you worked that night?
No, I don't. They were some. So what the WWF used to do, again, when they would bring 100 of their guys in, I mean, everybody was there. And so they would need 100, pardon the expression, 100 jobbers. So there were 200 people in the locker room. And I'm pretty sure that him and I worked against what they called some talent that they were trying to bring in, like who were the Canadian brothers, Rougeau brothers.
Rougeau brothers.
Yeah, it might have been them. It was something like that where they were trying to bring this tag team in and trying to make them something. And that was great sitting there. Andre the Giant's there again. All the guys were there, and that was as a wrestling fan. Which Chris and I were both wrestling fans. That's how we got started, but to be in the locker room. Yeah. My favorite story is, I don't know, John, if you remember Dusty Rhodes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I worked in Tampa for TV for a little while for Steve Kern and Mike Graham, and Dusty ran it for 6 months. And I'm wrestling Tugboat. Before he was Tugboat, he was the big steel man, Fred Ottman. Yep. I'm down lacing my boots up, which I'm losing. I'm the jobber. Dusty walks Fred over to me, which is unusual because typically you would walk the jobber over to the main eventer. And Dusty and Fred are standing there, and Dusty goes over the match, 3 minutes, boom, boom, boom. You're going to drop him with an elbow. Dusty puts his hand on my shoulder, and he turns to Fred, and he says, do what this guy tells you to do. He knows what he's doing. And then Dusty walked away. And I could have had a heart attack right there and dropped dead on the floor, and I would have gone to heaven with a smile on my face. Because Dusty Rhodes, in my opinion, paid me the biggest compliment that I had ever had in my career. You know.
I love that too. And did Big Fred, did he listen to you? Did he follow you?
So here's the funny thing, and I've got a real cute picture of me and Fred backstage. He was probably 480, and I was 280. So he was 200 pounds bigger than me. And the finish was he throws me into the ropes. I run in, he hits me with an elbow. I go down, and then he splashes me and covers me 1, 2, 3. We go through the match. Everything's fine. He throws me into the ropes. He hits me. I go down. He covers me, splash, 1, 2, 3. We get back in the dressing room. He says, how was that elbow? I said, big man, I got to tell you the truth. I never hit your elbow. His back was so massive that he couldn't get his elbow around. So I just ran right into the middle of his back and went down. But I had to tell him. I said, look, I never got to your elbow, but I hit your back and I went down. It worked fine. It looked great.
Yeah, he's a monster. He is just huge. Like even in person when you meet him, it's like, wow, like I thought you were big. You're even bigger. Like he's just monstrous.
Before we went out, there was and we stand. You stand right like this, backstage. One goes out that way and one goes out that way. I'm not telling any secrets that you can't find on the internet. We're standing there, and there's a delay in taping. They have a problem with the cameras or with the video equipment or whatever. And I look over at this guy who's 420, 430, and he's going like this. And I'm looking up at him, and I said, hey, what's going on here, big guy? He goes, oh, man. He goes, I get nervous anyway. And he says, with this delay, I'm really nervous. And I'm thinking, you're going to be throwing me around like a bag of potatoes, and you're nervous? I talked him down, and I reminded him. I said, Fred, you don't have to do anything. Again, I'm letting the secrets out. I said, if you're going to hit me with the boot, all you have to do is put your boot up in the air. It's my job to run into it, no matter where I am in the ring. If you're going to hit me with an elbow, all you have to do is put your elbow out. It's my job to run into it, no matter where you are in the ring, no matter where I am. And I could see his hands going like this. And I said, you don't have to do anything, my friend. I said, all you have to do is put something out there. It's my job to run into it. And when I said that, his hands just went down like this. And I was like, whew. I just dodged a bullet with that one. Yeah.
Was Dusty happy with you, though? That's the key. Was he happy with you afterwards?
Yep. And again, same way with Chris. Our philosophy was, and I when I talk to young kids, I say you've got 3 things you've got to do. Number 1 is give the promoter what he asked you for. Number 2 is make sure nobody gets hurt, starting with your opponent. And number 3 is make sure you get paid. I've had people come up to me for years and say, what was your record? I said, 224-2. And they said, no, every time I saw you wrestle, you got lost. You got beat. I said, oh, I can't tell you that. I can tell you that I didn't get paid 2 times because that's how I look at winning and losing is whether I got paid or not. I won 224 times because I got paid. I lost 2 times because I didn't get paid. And when I say do what the promoter tells you to do, Chris, who's your promoter in the other end of that trailer right now?
Looks like he might be frozen.
He froze. If he did, he'd tell you his wife, Verna. Same with me. My promoter is my wife, Jackie. My promoter is my boss at work from 8 to 5. So when I say to these young kids, do what the promoter tells you to do, that means do what your boss tells you to do. Do what your wife tells you to do. And that was, I sent a guy home one night. I said he was going to work baby. I was promoting the match, and I had a heel not show up. So I went to him and I said, you need to work heel. He says, I have family here. I already told him I'm working baby. I walked over to the door and held the door open for him. I said, sorry, I wasted your time. I'll let you go sit out there with your family and watch the rest of the matches. I won't charge you. I'm the promoter. Do what the promoter tells you to do. Right, Chris?
That's exactly right. Hey, I'm sorry about I guess I lost my signal there, so I apologize for that. but yeah, the promoter is the guy in charge. You got to do what he tells you to do, or she tells you to do, and if you don't do that, then you're not going to be working very long.
You won't get asked back.
No.
Yeah.
Chris, when you were down in Florida, did you work for Dusty too? Did you work his territory, or were you more working for Eddie Graham?
No, I was in Texas, so I didn't have that opportunity. And Mike and I are more like brothers than anything. So we got into wrestling together in 1978, and when I was in Texas, we were keeping in touch. And so I'm telling him what's going on there in Texas. He's telling me what's going on there in Florida. But I never had that opportunity. But I sure
Chris,
wish.
Tell him who was one of the guys that trained you and me.
Yeah. The Great Malenko. Yeah.
You probably know his boys.
Oh yeah,
Joe and Dean. Yep.
Dean. Yep.
Yeah.
I have a poster somewhere where Joe Malenko is wrestling someone, then I'm wrestling someone, then Dean Malenko is wrestling someone. Because I've worked for the Great Malenko, some of the matches that he put on, and he had Joe and Dean. I hope you're not listening, Joe and Dean. I used to refer to them as they got midgets on the card tonight. They were both about this tall, but incredible talent, talent. Yep.
Yeah. The roughest match, besides Bruce and Brody, the roughest match I ever had was Joe Malenko, and in Orlando, Florida. I'll never forget that, man. I think I hurt for 2 weeks after that match.
Joe was pretty stiff, huh?
No, it was just the kind of match we were doing, and just some hard bumps, and it was just one of those things. But he's such a great guy. He was trained not only by his dad, but he was trained by Carl Gotch, and that's probably one of the biggest names you can mention as far as trainers go. So, but it was it was good memories. It wasn't bad memories because of that.
How was Brody though? You said that might have been your toughest. How was Brody in the ring?
Terrible. When he kicked you in the head, he kicked you in the head. I don't even know how I got home that night after getting kicked in the head.
Wow, not good. He did super stiff there.
Ooh, yeah, a little bit. Well, with guys that some of his greatest matches were with Abdullah the Butcher, and he had great matches with some pretty big names. But if you weren't a big name, he wasn't going to give you anything. And he was pretty rough in the ring.
Yeah, there's the Undertaker match, one of Undertaker's first matches down there in Texas. Man, he beats the hell out of Undertaker. I mean, man, kick him right in the head and everything else.
Yeah, he did. I saw that. So, that I wrestled him, the Undertaker, when he was just a kid. This was 1988, so I think he was like 23 years old whenever I worked against him. But he was super. He was a great worker, no problem whatsoever. And I just knew this kid's going to be a star because he looked great. What is he? 6'8", 315 pounds. And when I worked against him, he looked like Howdy Doody. That was before all the tattoos and the long hair. But he was just a great young man, and I'm thrilled that he was able to make the name for himself that he made, because my goodness, how many WrestleManias did that guy work in, and what was he, undefeated in all those WrestleManias too. So
yeah, for a while, I think he worked 25 Manias, I think. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, quite a few of them. Yeah. But it was great, being in Texas. After Mike got out of wrestling, he got into the movies and became a stuntman, and got to work in the movies and all. So he's got some great stories from some of those movies that he worked in.
Yeah.
Mike, what movies were you involved in?
I don't know that you'd ever even see them. One was called The Spring. You have to remember, again, in the very late 80s, Florida was number 3 in movie production. It was California, New York, and Florida. And Florida killed that by taxing the business. But I went to an audition. Again, there's another thing that I tell the young kids is allow wrestling to be your transitional shuttle to get you to something else. And I let wrestling get me into some movies. I went to an audition in Orlando and got the part. And it was a movie called The Spring with some TV stars, which I didn't really know who they were. And then I did some TV shows. I was actually on Hulk Hogan's. I'm going to quiz you here, John. Are you ready?
Yes.
What was Hulk Hogan's very first TV show?
Thunder in Paradise.
There we go. I
Great
did some
show.
some stunt work. Well, okay, you and I differ on that opinion, but that's all right. That's what makes America great. I did some stunt work on that show, and I got to spend some time with Terry, which was interesting. Did another movie down in Miami. Did the stunt work on another movie down in Miami, and that was a situation where, unfortunately, my home life wouldn't allow me to go do what I really wanted to do. You have responsibilities here, and then you have this big picture over there where all these people want you to go do this, and the responsibilities here say, no, we don't want you doing that. So I kind of missed that, but yeah, that was interesting. It was very interesting. And Chris got to be in his own movie. He got to do some parts in his own movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about the Masked Saint. Tell us about your movie.
Yeah, it was, unbelievable to, I'll never forget when my wife and I got off the plane in Canada where the movie was filmed. We got off the plane and we walk off, and there's a guy standing there with a sign that's got the Masked Saint on there. And we walk out, and I said, I think you're here for me. And he said, yeah, are you Pastor Chris? And I said, yeah. So, they take you to the hotel. They treat you like, kings and queens. And he tells you that, I'm your chauffeur, and I'll be here for as long as you're here. And I'll pick you up in the morning at 6:30, and we go to the set. And it was just unbelievable to work with Roddy Piper and also Diana Carroll, who was a unbelievable star in her day. And, she was a Academy Award nominated actress. And it was just surreal to be there watching a movie about you. And to have all of those opportunities was just amazing. Yeah, I really, even today, I have to pinch myself when I think about that.
What was Roddy like? Because, obviously we know him as, the hot rod and stuff. But what was he like just filming and stuff?
Oh, he was super guy. Roddy, I don't know how many movies and TV programs he made, but if you go to IMDb and you put in, Roddy Piper, you'll see everything he made. And, of course, the very first movie he made was called They Live, and which has, kind of a cult following on that. But he was just as good of an actor as he was a wrestler. And he was just a super nice guy to be around. And it was very, very sad. The movie was filmed in November of 2013, and then he passed away July 31st of 2014. And we were the same age, so it was just a shock, when I heard that he had passed away. But just a great guy to be around. And I have, just some super memories from that time.
Now, Mike, it's interesting, just like the wrestler actor crossover. I feel like it's like an easy easy, but like a normal transition of so many guys that do that. Obviously, Terry Funk, he really, he sticks out. I was literally just watching Roadhouse last night, and he's awesome in Roadhouse. But there's so many guys. Jesse the Body, obviously Hulk, and then nowadays The Rock, Cena, Batista. Do you think that that's a very easy transition, or is it maybe harder than we want to?
No, very easy. In the first movie I was in, they wanted me to do a stunt. And the stunt is that I get hit with a spear, which they had piano wire going about 40 feet. And then they had the spear hooked to the piano wire, and they had a board underneath my top. And I was holding a gun, pointing it at someone. And when I get hit with the spear, I'm supposed to go down and drop the gun so that it lands about 20 feet away at the foot of the good guy. And they said, don't worry about that because we'll cut it in later and add it. And they, again, in the movies, it's multiple takes. Take. So they yell action. The spear comes in, hits me in the chest. I go down. I drop the gun. I go down. I hear him yell, cut and print. The gun landed right at the foot of the good guy. Everything that I did was where I was supposed to be. And I got up and everybody's applauding and everybody's clapping and patting me on the back. And I said, you have to understand that where I come from in wrestling, you only get one take. You don't get to do it again. If I'm going to pick Chris up and slam him and body slam him and then throw him into the ropes and throw him into the corner and drop an elbow on him, I don't get 2 takes. I have to do it in 1 take. So I went into this movie saying, you tell me what it is you need me to do, and I'm going to do it. And I'm assuming that The Rock and Hulk and Cena and all of them are the same way. Tell me what it is you need me to do, and I'm going to do it because I'm used to doing it in 1 take. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the wrestlers know. Hey, it's live. Like, hey, we got to nail this. We got to be ready. Maybe actors not used to that at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if Chris saw it as much as I did, but what a waste. People would say, "Oh, you're on a movie set. How glorious!" I go, "No, you're there at 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. And if they film 2 hours, you're lucky. And it's cut, break for this, and cut and break for that. And, oh, I'm hot and sweaty, makeup and this and that." It's like, holy cow. Again, I'd much rather be in the ring because they tell you to go and you get it done. I would tell my friends, I say, you can come on down, but be prepared. It's 12 hours of mind-bending torture. Yeah.
Hurry up and wait, as they say, right? Hurry, and then you're just waiting all day. Yeah, right?
Yep.
Well, with me, it was different. I'll never forget the first day of filming in Canada. It's like 40 degrees, and it feels like 20, and it's raining, and they had a kind of a canopy over the cameras and stuff, and the director is there, and he saw me and my wife out of the corner of his eye, and I saw him grab the little microphone. He said, bring Pastor Chris and his wife a director's chair. And I said, hey, you don't have to do that. And he just put his hand up, like, no, we're going to do this. And then they bring these director's chairs, put them under the tent, and my wife and I were sitting there, and they treated us like royalty while we were there. And I got to watch all of the, Mike is right. They film 12 hours or 14 hours a day, and for a very small percentage that goes into the movie. But for me, it was awesome. I mean, I enjoyed every bit of it. Mike, he's on the other side of it. He wants to work. And matter of fact, you ought to tell him that story, Mike, about he was doing an Italian movie down in Miami, and I love the stories, but I'll let him tell it.
I was stunt doubling the star of the movie, and I had to do a driving scene. And I'm not a stunt driver, so I get in the car with the stunt man, the stunt coordinator, and he drives me through what it is we need to do. We peel out of the parking lot. We almost hit somebody. We jump up on a curb. We run through a red light. We spin around this corner. We almost hit a woman pushing a baby carriage. We come flying around another corner, and then we screech the car right up 2 feet away from the building. And he turns to me and he says, what do you think? I said, yeah, let's give it a try. Again, I'm from the school of wrestling. So the other stunt guy jumps in with me. I hear the director yell, action, and we've got a camera in the back of the car. We've got a camera on the front of the car. We got a camera following us. Cameras out on the street. I peel out. I spin around. I go up on the curb. I almost hit somebody. I fly around this one corner. I run a light. I almost hit the lady with the pushing the carriage, and I slide the car right up to the side of the building. We both get out and run into the building, and I hear the director yell, "Cut, print." The other stunt guy that was with me, he says, that was incredible. That was fantastic. How long you been driving like that? I said, well, I got in the car at 2:14, and it's 2:17 now. So I don't know, what's that, like 7 or 8 minutes? And he just looked at me, and I'm like, no, that's my wrestling background is you show me a move, you show me what you want me to do, and it's my job to pick it up and do it, Hey, John, I gotta tell you this real quick about Chris. So I heard backstage when he thinks the director said, get Pastor a chair. Director said, get that old fart a chair before he passes out. I heard from the other guys in the set.
I believe it. Yes.
Yeah.
Hey. But wrestlers, they have to be quicker. You know what I mean? They're just normally quicker on their feet. They can pick up things quicker. They know they have to be because of the live nature of things.
Yeah.
I don't think that I could, and I would love to, if we film, when we film, I'm going to say it positively, when we film Mr. President, I'm sure that Chris and I will have small parts in it, and I will do my darndest to make sure that director just yells action one time and cut one time, and then we can mosey on and do whatever it is we have to do afterwards.
Yeah.
Now, as we hit the wind down, we head towards the finish here. Dr. Chris, give us just one big push for Mr. President, where everybody can get the book, but just give us one last big push. Actually,
okay. All you got to do is go to Amazon.com and books, Mr. President, and it's that simple. You get it on Amazon.com, and I guarantee you won't regret it because it's one of the funniest books you'll ever read. And then one day it's going to be a movie. Matter of fact, I got a call from a producer in Canada a couple of weeks ago, and he was actually talking to me about my second book, which is Harold's Heavenly Christmas, Hallmark movie type. And he said that he had some, money people that were interested in making a movie. And so I said to him, hey, how about Mr. President? So he had me send him the script that Mike has written for Mr. President. And so I'm hoping that something comes about with that because it'll be a great movie. It's a great book and you need to read it, but it'll be a great movie too.
Mike, is that the idea though? Is that what we're shooting for here? The book into the movie? Is that like the end game?
Yeah. When Chris wrote The Masked Saint as the book, that was the catalyst to get it made into the movie, and that was the purpose of writing the book. Again, it'd be great if we sold 1 million copies, but if we sell 1 million copies and nobody wants to turn it into a movie, then we will both be a little bit disappointed. Yeah.
So is when you think about it, right? Do you have people in mind, or is this you're just kind of hoping at this point, or do you have things lined up, if you will?
We just sent the book to a former wrestler named you mentioned Tyrus, but his name's Titus. He used to wrestle for WWE. He's a local guy down here. He does a lot of charity work. Big black fella, real nice guy.
Titus O'Neil.
Titus O'Neil. I actually just sent him the book a week or two ago, and in my letter to him, I said, hope you enjoy the book, and we would love to entertain the thought of you playing the lead character in it. It's going to take somebody with, I hate to say it, but the Timmy Connors comedian. If you know Adam Sandler, get the book in his hands. It's going to take somebody. It's going to take somebody that can produce a movie and has vision. There are local comedians around here that I've given the book to, and they thank you, and they're very polite. And Chris has done a lot of local things locally, but we're looking for that one guy or that one woman that can take this thing and say, I've got the perfect. This is a real sore spot for Chris and I. We wasted a year with a producer who had us jump through hoops, made promises. This guy was a UFC fighter, a black guy that he wanted to play the part. And he had us change the script. And he had us jump through hoops for a year. And we finally cut ties with him because it became obvious to us that it wasn't going to go anywhere. But that was a year of our lives that we'll never get back. So we kind of learned from that lesson.
Now, as far as you, Mike, where can everybody find you? Social media, plugs, all that stuff of that nature.
One thing, Chris, that we didn't mention yet is we do have a website. It's MrPresidentBook.com. Mr. is MR, MrPresidentBook.com. If you go on there, it'll tell you a lot about Chris and me, and it'll also lead you to Amazon. One of the nice things that Chris and I both like to promote when we talk about this website is both of our cell phone numbers and personal email addresses are on this website. The hardest thing we're finding is, how do you get in touch with this person? Hey, how do you get in touch with that person? Because you can't. They're not going to give you their number. They're not going to give you their email address, whereas Chris and I are just the opposite. We want you to call us. We want you to email us. So go to MrPresidentBook.com, read about the story, read about Chris and myself. It'll take you to Amazon. Plus, you got our phone numbers and our email addresses on there.
All right, awesome. Anything else? Did we miss anything as far as plugs for you?
Yep. Well, if you go to the Masked, that's MASKED, Saint, themaskedsaint.com. You can get my books, T-shirts, whatever on that website, and plus you can communicate with me. And of course, Mike and I both love it when people email us and ask us questions. So if you email us, I guarantee you're going to get an answer. Yeah. And John, I just want to say to you, man, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your show. And you've got an awesome show. You got an awesome platform. And Mike and I appreciate so much you having us.
Yep.
You got it. No problem. Thank you guys so much for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Yep. Great to be with you.
Thanks. Thanks to your listeners, too.